Gloria from Tinubu. I'm running for governor because I think we need fundamental change and reform in South Carolina. We've got a wonderful state, but our politics on the road are keeping us from having what we need in terms of good education system, good roads, secure pension. And the reason is there's a group of people in Columbia that are running this state in a system of plantation politics. And they get together, Democrats and Republicans, in the big house. They cut the deals. They decide what's good for them and their cronies and friends. And the rest of us, they just say, here's the way it's going to be. Tough luck if you don't like it. And we need wholesale reform in this state. And that means having reformers who are not a part of the system, who are outsiders, but people who have a history, a skills, a story, a passion, a love for this state. And I think what this partnership is about two different people who have very different backgrounds in one sense. The demographics are different, the family history is different, but we have a united vision of South Carolina. We both love this state passionately. We both care about the future, and we're willing to take risks to try to change South Carolina. And Gloria personifies that. She was a native daughter, born and raised here in South Carolina, down in Plantersville. And she got a PhD in applied economics from Clemson, a real pioneer up there. And she had a career in politics in Georgia, but then came back to South Carolina and ran for Congress. And she's been involved in making our state and region better. She's one of the board of directors of the Palmetto Works Community Development Corporation, on the Diversity Leadership Institute in Furman. One of the board of directors of the State United Way. She's a former teacher, college professor, and a college president. And most of all, she's a woman of energy and passion and concern who is committed to a better South Carolina. And so that's why I can't introduce somebody you already know better than me in some ways. But anyway, Gloria.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. I'm honored to serve on your ticket as your runner mate, and I am honored that you selected me from an outstanding field of candidates. Before I go into my remarks, I want to introduce the powerhouse that is behind us. In fact, I wouldn't say that they're behind us, they're beside us in this campaign. And I'd like to let you know who's here with us today. My namesake, the mayor, Madam Mayor, Gloria Hines. Gloria. Wait. Elaine Reed, Councilperson, Ward 2. Sheila Backus, Councilperson, Ward 1. Margaret Rogers, County Auditor. And Linda Bird Spearman, candidate from House Seat 62. Join me.
Yeah, and Donald Gilliard, an all-around good guy who knows everybody and can get everything done up here.
Yes, indeed. As I said, Phil and I are friends, and I'm honored to be on this ticket, but I'm not honored just because we're friends. I'm honored because Phil's campaign reflects his lifelong commitment to standing up for our democratic ideals and fighting for big change, real reform right now. Not later, but right now. And what are some of those democratic values that Phil cares about? He believes in equal opportunity for all and privileges for none. Government of, for, and by the people, and not of the special interest. He believes that every working person should have the right to a living wage, that they can take care of themselves and their family. Yes. And Phil stands with women like us, yes, the 2.4 million in South Carolina, who will not be silenced as we demand equal pay for equal work. Yes. Yes.
Hallelujah.
Amen. Phil knows that our state is in desperate need of sustainable economic development, particularly in our rural areas where our schools, our infrastructure, healthcare, broadband, transportation, and access to the basic necessities are woefully inadequate. Phil has a vision for South Carolina, for a new South Carolina, where state government is reformed from the top down, where we can create an environment where every citizen will have an equal opportunity to create the kind of future they want for themselves, their families, and their communities. But unfortunately, that kind of vision for change isn't present in our present-day state legislature. Another legislative session has gone by. We just ended that without a meaningful legislation to address the state's pressing issues. So for this election cycle, the issues that the pressing question for me is the same question that was raised by the Honorable Barbara Jordan in 1976 when she said, are we to be one people bound together by a common spirit, sharing a common endeavor, or will we become a divided nation? Given what we've seen nationally, I think her words were prophetic. However, I'd like to paraphrase those words for my fellow South Carolinians. And here is what I'd like to ask you. Are we to be one people bound together by a common spirit?
Yes.
That spirit of South Carolina motto says that while I breathe, I hope. Right?
Yes.
As long as I'm breathing, there's hope. And sharing a common endeavor that is etched in the founding of this country, and that endeavor is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That should be available to all of our citizens. Or will we become a divided state again?
All right now.
Again.
All right.
I believe that Phil and I, as governor and lieutenant governor, will lead this state towards a new South Carolina.
Yes. Right. Yes.
And we have the potential for leading the nation and what it takes to form a more perfect union. And I stand with Phil for big change, real reform right now. Thank you very much.
Yes. Right. Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Yes, we can.
You know, I think what Gloria, Dr. Tinubu said, and I think what, reflecting back on where we are at the end of a legislative session, it really is encapsulated by the word, send them a message. And we need to send the politics of Columbia, we need to send the big house a message. And that message is that the time for plantation politics is over. It's over. And the time for inaction is over. We just finished a legislative session, and they essentially did not pass a single bill that meaningfully dealt with this $9 billion robbery of the people of this state by the utilities. We need to send them a message. We want real change, reform now with utilities. We need to send them a message that we need sensible gun reform. Our families and our communities are not safe, and they won't be until we have leadership that stands up to the NRA, calls out the evil that they're doing, and fights them every single day. We need to send them a message that we will be there fighting the NRA every day. We just finished a legislative session, and they did not pass a single piece of meaningful ethics reform trying to deal with the corruption in the State House. We need to end political action committees. We're the only campaign that is not taking PAC money. And it's about sending them a message that we can do better. We can do better in this state. We just finished the legislative session, and they did not pass a single meaningful education reform measure. The greatest issue before this state is education reform. If we don't fix education, nothing else really matters. And they did nothing. And we need to send them a message that that is not acceptable. That we believe in a new South Carolina. A new South Carolina that's represented by Gloria and myself, Dr. Tinubu. All the other candidates for governor and lieutenant governor, they're part of the State House. They're legislators. They're corporate lawyers with their lobbyists. And then you have two people who are none of that, who are reformers, who are outsiders. And real change always comes from the outside in, always from the bottom up. And we've got to send that message to Columbia. So thank you. Thank you
All right.
for cleaning the court. And I appreciate everybody coming back. Yeah.
So much.
Y'all got any questions? Or?
You gave me everything.
I'm good. Doctor, in case you have any questions. I'm good.
Oh.
You go ahead. I'm good.
Okay, we're going to interview Gloria separately.
Good.
And so I'm first, and then they're going to